Thank you for joining my new series, Chronology of History. And of course, today we're going to go from 10,000 BC down to 1000 BC. Hope you enjoyed this new series. So we're going to start in about 10,000 BCE with the first civilizations as we know them began. 9500 BCE, temples of Göbekli Tepe, a complex of circles of stone pillars, was constructed in Anatolia, southeastern Turkey, at the site known now as Göbekli Tepe. The intricately carved T-shaped pillars were set in sockets cut into the rock floor. They were arranged in circular layouts, believed to have had a religious or ritual purpose, making them the earliest known religious structures in the world. 8000 BCE, walled settlements such as Jericho arise, offering defense against flood as well as invasion. 5500 to 2800 BCE, settlements in the Indus Valley marked the beginnings of the early Harappan civilization. 5000 to 3520 BCE, small villages are established during the early Jomon period in Japan. 4500 BCE, metal smelting develops from the extraction of copper from ore and fires. 4100 to 2900 BCE, city-states appear in Mesopotamia. One of the earliest civilizations, Sumer, emerged as settlements appeared in the region between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in present-day Iraq. Many of these villages developed into larger urban centers. The most important of these was Uruk, the first true city, which became the political and cultural center of the region. At its height, the city-state of Uruk had up to 80,000 inhabitants, about half of whom lived in the city itself. 3500 BCE, Huaycanga, the first city of the Norte Chico civilization in Peru, is founded. 3500 BCE, the earliest earthwork complex in North America is constructed at Watson Brake, Louisiana. 3500 BCE, early wheeled transportation. As farmers in Mesopotamia domesticated larger animals such as cattle and donkeys, they realized their potential as draft animals for drawing a plow or pulling a cart. Using solid wooden wheels, the Sumerians built four-wheel carts for agricultural use. Chariots for military and ceremonial purposes modeled on these carts soon followed. 3100 BCE, Narmer unifies Egypt. The two kingdoms of Upper and Lower Egypt were unified by Narmer, also known as Menes, who then became the founder of the first dynasty, the first pharaoh of the early dynastic period. His momentous achievement was commemorated in the images and hieroglyphics inscribed on artifacts such as the Narmer palette and ornamental tablet for grinding and mixing cosmetics. So we have this little sub-timeline from 9500 to 3500 BCE, the evolution of agriculture. The adoption of agriculture and abandonment of the nomadic lifestyle prepared the ground for the first settled civilizations. First off, in 9500 BCE, in the Fertile Crescent of Egypt and Western Asia, people harvest and later cultivate wild grains. 8500 BCE, goats and sheep are the first animals to be domesticated as agriculture becomes established in the Middle East. 5000 to 3000 BCE, the Yangshao culture emerges in China from the Yellow River. In parts of Gansu, the people grow mainly millet. And lastly, 3500 BCE, early forms of plow are invented in several different places. Cattle and donkeys are used as draft animals. So now we're in 3000 BCE. 3000 BCE, construction of Stonehenge begins on the Salisbury Plain in the west of England. 3000 BCE, the Elam civilization emerges along the eastern side of the Persian Gulf. 2900 BCE, the cuneiform writing system. The Mesopotamians of Sumer devised a method of recording transactions by making impressions in soft clay with a stick. These simple tally marks developed into a sophisticated writing system using wedge-shaped cuneiform symbols to represent words and syllables rather than the pictograms used in hieroglyphics. 2600 BCE, the first stepped pyramids are built in Caral. the major city of the Norte Chico civilization in Peru. In the Egyptian Old Kingdom from 2686 to 2181 BCE, the bodies of the pharaohs, their families, and other nobles were preserved by a process of mummification, embalmed and wrapped in cloth before being entombed with a wealth of funerary treasures. 2560 BCE, the Great Pyramid of Giza, tomb of the pharaoh Khufu, is completed. 2500 BCE, construction of Mohenjo-Daro. The Harappan civilization of the Indus Valley reached its peak between 2600 and 1900 BCE. It contains several cities, including Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, with populations of about 50,000. Mohenjo-Daro, in particular, was notable for its brick buildings, methodical urban planning, and sophisticated irrigation and sewage systems. 2334 to 2279 BCE, Sargon the Great of Akkad. Through his conquests of neighboring kingdoms, Sargon extended his rule from Akkad east of the Tigris, becoming the first leader to rule over an empire of subject city-states. 2200 BCE, iron smelting is developed in Anatolia by the Hittites. They keep the process a closely guarded secret. 2150 BCE, the kingdom of Nubia is established in the region to the south of Egypt. 2112 to 2095 BCE, the great ziggurat was built in Ur. After freeing his city from Akkadian and Gutian rule, King Ur-Nammu of Ur founded the Neo-Sumerian Third Dynasty of Ur. He built a huge ziggurat or step pyramid in honor of the god Nannar. The monumental structure fell into disrepair after the fall of the Third Dynasty, but was rebuilt in the 6th century BCE by Nabonidus, king of Babylonia. 2134 BCE, the Egyptian Middle Kingdom is founded as Muntahotep II reunifies Egypt. Also, 2100 to 2000 BCE, the Epic of Gilgamesh is written on tablets in the Sumerian language. And here's you a quote from the Epic of Gilgamesh. Only the gods dwell forever in sunlight. As for man, his days are numbered. 2070 to 1600 BCE, the Xia dynasty in China. According to tradition, Yu the Great founded the Xia dynasty, the first of the Chinese dynasties, when the mandate of heaven was bestowed on him by the last of the mythical 5 sovereigns. Yu became legendary not only for instigating dynastic rule in China, but also for his benevolent and wise leadership. Foremost among his achievements was the work he commissioned to control the persistent floods that threatened his homeland in central China. 2700 to 2200 BCE, the Age of the Pyramids. The Old Kingdom of Egypt is often referred to as the Age of the Pyramids because it encompasses the reigns of the great pyramid-building kings of the 3rd to 6th dynasties. In the 500-year period from about 2700 BCE, architects developed the techniques to quarry limestone, transport huge quantities of the stone, and assembled the massive monuments that became symbolic of the majesty of ancient Egypt. The first Egyptian pyramids appeared in the reign of King Djoser in the 3rd dynasty. Djoser moved his royal capital to Memphis and embarked on a program of building works to establish his court. This included the construction of a necropolis complex in nearby Saqqara, overseen by his architect Imhotep, who is credited with the design of the first pyramid. The simple step pyramid at Saqqara inspired Djoser's successors in the 4th dynasty, such as King Sneferu, to refine the design to create a true pyramid. Pyramid building reached its high point with the construction of the Great Pyramids at Medum and Dashur, and the famous pyramid complex at Giza, built for kings Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. 27th century BCE, early step pyramids. The first Egyptian pyramids were tiered structures built by adding successively smaller stories of stone blocks onto a square or rectangular base. The model for these was Djoser's pyramid at Saqqara, which rose to a height over 196 feet in 6 steps. 26th century BCE, first true pyramids. Architects of the 4th dynasty used much smaller steps to build a smoother pyramidal shape to rise to a point, such as the bent pyramid of Dashur. The effect was further enhanced by cladding the structure with polished white limestone slabs. 26th century BCE, the Sphinx, alongside the Giza Pyramid complex, is another iconic ancient Egyptian structure. The Sphinx, carved from the bedrock but later restored with blocks of limestone, it is a colossal statue of the mythical cat-like Sphinx with the face of then reigning King Khafre. Moving right along to 2000 BCE. 1900 BCE, Stonehenge completed, built at the center of circular earthworks dating back to about 3000 BCE. The stone monument, now known as Stonehenge, was completed some 1,000 years later. Because the structure and the avenue leading to it are aligned with the sunrise at the summer solstice, it is believed to have had a religious purpose or astronomical purpose. 1900 BCE, the Hittites established their empire with their capital in Hattusa, Anatolia. 1900 BCE, Minoan palaces. The Minoan civilization became established on the island of Crete about 3000 BCE, became a major trading power in the Mediterranean, and its prosperity is apparent in the impressive palaces, mainly administrative buildings, built from around 1900 BCE onward in cities such as Knossos, Phaistos, and on the island of Thera or Santorini. These were often seen as several stories high, fitted with plumbing systems, and typically lavishly decorated. 1900 BCE, the Amorite conquest. The Amorites, a Semitic people from the Levant, traded in Acadia and Mesopotamia during the 21st century BCE. They came to occupy much of the southern part of the region, setting up independent city-states. One of these, Babylon, came to particular prominence as the capital of what was to become the First Babylonian Empire. 1810 to 1750 BCE, King Hammurabi, now remembered for introducing his eponymous Babylonian law code. Hammurabi was revered in his own time for expanding the Babylonian Empire across almost all of Mesopotamia. 1650 BCE, northern Egypt is occupied by invaders from the Levant, the Hyksos, the first foreign rulers of Egypt. 1600 BCE, global climate begins to cool, possibly as a result of volcanic eruptions around the world. 1600 BCE, a catastrophic volcanic eruption on Thera or Santorini triggers the decline of the Minoan civilization. 1600 BCE, Shang dynasty established. After the semi-mythical Xia dynasty, the Yellow River Valley was ruled by the first Chinese kings from whom there is firm evidence. The Shang dynasty, it was founded by Chen Tang, victor of the Battle of Mingqiao against the Xia. Artifacts made from bronze, jade, and ceramic and oracle bones inscribed with characters and used for divination, attest to the cultural sophistication of the Shang. 1595 to 1530 BCE, the Hittites and Kassites used iron weapons and horse-drawn chariots in their invasion of Babylon. 1549 to 1069 BCE, Egypt's new kingdom under Ahmose I, founder of the 18th dynasty. Egypt was reunified after the expulsion of the Hyksos rulers from the Nile Delta. So began Egypt's most powerful period, the New Kingdom of Egypt, which saw the empire extended in Nubia and Western Asia. In keeping with his Theban heritage, Ahmose moved the site of the royal tombs from the pyramids to the Valley of the Kings near Thebes. And now we're in 1500 BCE, and we have a sub-timeline here talking about the Iron Age from 1500 to 500 BCE. Iron smelting was developed in Asia, became widespread in the Middle East in the 12th century BCE, and slowly spread around the world. In 1500 BCE, the Hittites in Anatolia developed techniques of ironworking as seen in the axe head above, but closely guard the secrets to maintain their superiority over neighboring states. 1000 BCE, iron technology spreads into Western Asia and Europe, reaching as far north as the Shetland Islands above. It is also discovered by the Nok of West Africa. 500 BCE, Chinese metal workers learned the processes of smelting and working iron and began producing intricate pieces, such as the gold inlaid belt hook shown above. 1500 BCE, Nok culture emerges. The Nok culture, named after the village of Nok where its artifacts were first discovered, began to develop in what is today Nigeria. Best known for their stylized terracotta figures, the Nok people also discovered iron smelting at around the same time the Iron Age was getting underway in Europe and Asia. Their civilization was very long-lived, lasting until its sudden and mysterious disappearance in about 500 CE. 1400 BCE, Assyrians assert independence after centuries of existing as disparate subject states of successive Akkadian and Babylonian empires in Mesopotamia. The Assyrians began to emerge as a single independent power. 1400 BCE, Vedic Sanskrit-speaking peoples migrate into India from the northwest and then spread out across North India. 1348 BCE, religious reforms instituted in Egypt by Pharaoh Akhenaten reject old gods in favor of sun worship. 1336 BCE, Pharaoh Tutankhamun and Queen Nefertiti restored the old Egyptian religion, Gadakondo Medistona. 1300 BCE, urn-filled culture, named after the practice of storing cremated ashes in urns, emerges in Central Europe. 1264 to 1244 BCE, Ramesses II expands Egypt under Pharaoh Ramses II. The Egyptian Empire extended southward into gold-rich Nubia, as well as subjugating the Nubian people. Ramses II instigated a huge construction project in his Nubian territory as a lasting symbol of Egyptian power. This took the form of two massive temples cut into the rock at Abu Simbel, with giant relief figures carved into their facades. The great temple dedicated to Ramses himself, and the small temple to his chief wife Nefertari. 1200 BCE, the kingdom of Lydia is established in Asia Minor after the decline of the Hittite Empire. 1200 BCE, Olmec culture, the earliest known civilization in Mesoamerica. The Olmec culture developed from settlements in the Gulf region of Mexico, having its center first in San Lorenzo and later at La Venta. A prominent feature of the Olmec culture was its stone carving, as well as carved masks and axe heads presumed to be for ritual use. The Olmecs produced a number of massive sculptures in volcanic basalt known as colossal heads. 1100 BCE, the seagoing Phoenicians rise to become a major Mediterranean power. And also 1100 to 800 BCE, the Greek Dark Ages begin after the fall of the Mycenaeans. And last but not least, the Zhou dynasty conquers the ruling Shang dynasty in China. Thank you for joining me. Now we're in 1000 BCE, and we will pick up there on our next Chronology of History video. Hopefully that should drop Thursday of next week.